Hey everyone, I'm Ms. Milkowski, the mathematician, and today we're going to talk about CPCTC. Now, if you've watched any of my geometry proofs, you've probably seen me use CPCTC as a reason. And so what does it stand for? What does it mean? Well, basically it stands for corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So as you can see, this is where it comes from. CPCTC. So corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, which is basically the definition of congruent triangles. So we know that two triangles are congruent if and only if all of their corresponding parts are congruent. And this becomes useful in proofs because if we know two triangles are congruent, then we know all of their corresponding parts are congruent. So for example, I have two triangles here, triangle ABC and triangle DEF. And I know that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF because I just decided to make two triangles that were congruent. So therefore, I know that angle A is congruent to angle D, and angle B is congruent to angle E, and angle C is congruent to angle F. Likewise, side AB is congruent to side DE, and side BC is congruent to side EF, and side AC is congruent to side DF. Okay, so if I were to be doing a proof, and let's say that I needed to prove that angle B was congruent to angle E, okay? I would go through everything that I'm going through, and then I would hopefully get to a point where I say that the two triangles are congruent, that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. When I get to that point there, the next statement would be angle B is congruent to angle E, okay? And the reason, that looks a little, let's just make sure we can, maybe I should just erase the whole thing. Didn't do a good job there, kind of melded together. Okay, angle E. So angle B is congruent to angle E, and the reason for that would be CPCTC, because corresponding parts of congruent triangles, so remember these triangles are congruent, and angle B and angle E are corresponding angles, okay, so corresponding parts of two congruent triangles, are congruent. So therefore angle B is congruent to angle E. So there you go. Hopefully that clears things up with what CPCTC is. It just stands for corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, and is basically used when you have two congruent triangles and you want to say that their corresponding parts are congruent. So if you want to say a specific angle or a specific side is congruent to a corresponding side in the triangle that's congruent to the original. Hey everyone, I'm Ms. Milkowski, the mathematician, and I hope you found that last video helpful. If you have any questions or if there are any topics you'd like to see me cover in future videos, definitely let me know in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm going to leave you with the most important piece of advice I can give you, which is when you're doing mathematics, always ask why.